Hello guys! Welcome to my channel. Enjoy the stunning views and make yourselves comfortable. As beautiful as the scenery is during my trip, the crime I'll tell you about today is equally horrifying. South Korea is a country where street crime and violent crimes are almost non-existent. Car thefts are extremely rare. There are 2.6 murders per 100,000 people annually, more than twice as low as in the United States. South Korea ranks first in the world for the number of plastic surgeries and the speed of internet connections. While it's uncommon to take vacations here, you can borrow a book for free from a library car in the subway and read it on your way to work. This is the fascinating setting where today's story takes place. South Korea is a country located on the Korean Peninsula, bordered by the Yellow Sea, the Sea of Japan, and the East China Sea. It's a place where ancient traditions uniquely blend with modern trends. With a population of around 51 million, the Republic is an economically developed nation with a high per capita income. It's the world's largest shipbuilder, and there is a huge demand for Korean products, especially cars, in China. It is one of the most technologically advanced countries globally. Korean architecture has a rich history, with the oldest and most notable monument being the Gyeongbokgung Palace in Seoul, also known as the Palace of Shining Happiness, built in 1394. Visitors to the country can enjoy beautiful mountain landscapes and the extensive beaches along the Korean peninsula's coastline. South Korean men top the global ranking for skincare product consumption per capita, far ahead of Denmark in second place. South Korea also leads in the number of plastic surgeries per capita, surpassing Brazil, Thailand, and the United States. The country is also known for its unique practice of crime reenactment. Suspects in serious crimes like murder or rape are brought to the crime scene where, in front of large crowds and live broadcast journalists, they reenact the events. Often, these events see the suspects kneeling and begging for forgiveness from the victims' families and the public. South Korea is also the birthplace of esports, with games like StarCraft enjoying immense popularity. Official estimates suggest that 1 in 10 South Koreans owns a copy of this game. It is in one of the many computer clubs ubiquitous in this country that this dreadful story begins. In one of the computer clubs in Cheonggyecheon, a district in Seoul, a young woman was playing one of her favorite games. Due to the specifics of South Korea's judicial system, we do not know her real name. The names of victims are rarely, if ever, disclosed publicly. Neither are there photos nor any personal details. For convenience, we will call her Jane. Jane was 25 years old and had been working at the computer club for a couple of years. The club operated 24/7, and Jane often stayed after her shift to play games with friends. Jane had many friends among the regulars of the club. During Christmas, Jane's group was playing one of the most popular games in Korea, League of Legends. Jane knew almost everyone in her group, but there were a few new faces, including a young man named Kim Tae-hyun. Kim was 25 years old, born in 1996, making him a year younger than Jane. Kim didn't stand out much among his peers. He worked in the same field as Jane, at another computer club, and was also a fan of esports. At first, Kim didn't show much interest in Jane, but over time, things changed. During one of their late-night gaming sessions at the club, Kim confessed his romantic feelings to Jane. Unfortunately for Kim, Jane did not feel the same way and honestly told him so. This rejection deeply upset Kim, leading to a quarrel between the two. It was nothing significant, just a moment where hurt and disappointment got the better of him. Several months passed. The group continued to meet frequently at the computer club, but Kim had changed. It seemed that Jane's rejection had hit him hard. Once close friends, Kim and Jane now hardly spoke, even avoiding conversations within the group. However, as time went on, it became clear that Kim was not ready to give up on his connection with Jane. He began bombarding her with messages and trying to find opportunities to talk to her or just be around her. He's been harassing her relentlessly, forcing Jane to block Kim everywhere she can. This includes removing him from her friends list in League of Legends, where they had been longtime teammates. You'd think that with time, his obsession would fade, and he'd move on with his life after the painful rejection. Normally, that's what happens, but unfortunately, not with Kim Tae-han. His condition, and the unhealthy emotional bond he feels towards Jane, only worsened over time. Kim started calling her using public payphones, leaving lengthy voicemails on her answering machine. He also knew the internet cafe where Jane worked and spent her time, often waiting for her after work. Jane was forced to change her phone number and quit her job due to his relentless stalking. Even after being blocked on all her social media accounts, Kim created fake profiles to track her movements. Eventually, he found out Jane's new number, and the flood of messages and calls started again. Kim was an ordinary Korean guy. He dropped out of college at 16 to start working. After a brief stint at a company specializing in computer repairs, he was drafted into the Army, where he served for 2 years. Upon returning, he was rehired by his old computer repair firm. The owner, who had a friendly relationship with Kim, welcomed him back without hesitation. Kim balanced his job at the company with various side gigs. At some point, the owner noticed money missing from the register. Reviewing the surveillance footage revealed that Kim was the culprit. He was fired, but no criminal charges were pressed, likely due to the owner's previous friendship with him. However, word of his misconduct spread among his gaming buddies, and many of them cut ties with him. Following this incident, Kim stopped visiting the computer club, where he used to play, and became a loner. Kim's life took a downward spiral. In the summer of 2019, he was fined $1,500 by the police for allegedly harassing a woman in a public restroom. Jane also reported his stalking behavior to the police, submitting the voicemail recordings Kim had been leaving her for the past 6 months. As a result, Kim received another fine of $2,000 and a restraining order preventing him from approaching Jane. During this period, Kim's mental state seemed to deteriorate. Within a short time, he had received 3 fines, been rejected by both his girlfriend and friends, faced work issues, and was in severe financial distress. These factors, combined with his obsession with Jane, likely eroded his psyche over time. All the accumulated negativity eventually had to find an outlet, and it did. Kim was not ready to give up on Jane. He created a new fake account in League of Legends and added her as a friend under an alias. Jane fell for the ruse, and they played together for a long time. Meanwhile, Kim meticulously monitored her social media activity, trying to figure out her daily schedule, work hours, rest times, and most importantly, where she lived. One day, Kim's luck turned. Jane posted a photo of a recently delivered package on social media. In the background of one of the boxes, the delivery address was clearly visible. It was Jane's address. Now, Kim knew where she lived, her approximate schedule, when she was at work, when she was at home, and when she visited the club. On March 25, 2021, Kim packed his white backpack with tape, gloves, several knives, and a spare set of clothes. It was later discovered that his search history that morning included queries like how to kill someone quickly and where is Mapo Bridge, a notorious suicide spot in South Korea. Kim put on a black tracksuit and headed to Jane's address. At 5:15 p.m., street surveillance cameras spotted Kim walking towards the computer club where he believed Jane was spending her time. It's unclear why he chose this particular club, traveling about 20 kilometers across the city to get there. He probably deduced from her social media activity that this was where she spent her time. Kim searched all the rooms in the club, but not finding Jane, he left. At 5:30 p.m., Kim was again caught on surveillance cameras, appearing in the smoking area near the computer club and inspecting the surrounding utility area, still not finding what he was looking for. 10 minutes later, Kim left the area and headed to Jane's address, which he had found on social media. He got past the security of the residential complex by pretending to be a delivery courier. Kim went up to the right floor and knocked on the door. A woman's voice responded, asking him to leave the package at the door. Kim placed the package down and pretended to leave, stepping out of view of the peephole. 7 minutes later, the door cracked open. Kim quickly jumped forward, wedging his foot in the door. Standing there was not Jane, but her 22-year-old younger sister. Kim forcibly pushed the girl inside and shut the door, killing her with several knife wounds. Kim spent the entire day in the apartment with her body, waiting for Jane to return. At 10:30 p.m., he heard the front door open. It was Jane's mother, returning from work. As she entered the apartment, Kim attacked her, killing her the same way he had killed the younger sister. 2 hours later, after finishing her shift at the computer club, Jane came home. She met the same fate as her mother and sister. After the triple murder, Kim stayed in the victim's apartment. He lived there among the bodies, eating their food and drinking the alcohol he found in the fridge. Kim also inflicted wounds on himself with the knife, though none were life-threatening. After Jane didn't show up for work for some time, her friends grew increasingly worried and decided to check on her. When no one answered the door, they reported her missing to the police. 3 days later, with a search warrant in hand, the police broke into Jane's apartment. Kim was still there, beside the bodies. He had inflicted numerous superficial cuts and stab wounds on himself, which required hospitalization but were not life-threatening. A week later, Kim was discharged from the hospital and immediately taken into custody. During a search of Kim's apartment, police found the place in utter disarray, with all the furniture broken and the rooms in chaos. They discovered his passport discarded in the trash, suggesting he hadn't tried to hide it, merely throwing it away. After his confession, Kim underwent a crime reenactment procedure, which I mentioned at the beginning of this report. He publicly apologized to the victims' relatives, kneeling and expressing that his heart ached for the victims and that he felt extremely guilty for what he had done. In his public statement after his arrest, Kim first apologized not to his victims, but to the reporters gathered outside the police station in northern Seoul. "I don't think I can answer all of your questions," he said. "I sincerely ask for your understanding. I am very sorry," Kim stated. When asked if he wanted to say anything to the victims' families, he turned to the officer holding his hand and asked, "Could you let go for a second?" Then he dropped to his knees and said, "I feel an enormous guilt for breathing and even living. I would like to apologize for all the damage I have caused to everyone, including the victims' families." A woman in the crowd repeatedly shouted, "Execute Kim Tae-han, the murderer." To all other questions, he simply repeated, "I am sorry," including when asked why he killed the women. Briefly, and at a reporter's request, he removed his mask before being escorted into the police car that was to take him to the Seoul Northern District Prosecutor's office. Kim was sentenced to life imprisonment. He was found guilty of multiple crimes: murder, theft, harassment, breaking and entering, and unlawful use of communication networks. The prosecution had sought the death penalty for Kim in their closing arguments, stating that there was no other punishment suitable for this man other than the death penalty. They argued that Kim had meticulously planned his ruthless murders and showed utter disregard for human life. Kim's apologies were perceived as a strategy to mitigate his sentence, as the police stated that Kim had planned the crime for at least a week. He had searched the internet for ways to kill and tried to find out when his victim would be home. After the verdict, the victims' family members said they would appeal to the prosecution to challenge the court's decision, believing that Kim deserved the death penalty for his crimes. They stated that life imprisonment was too lenient for the man who had destroyed a happy family. However, the court rejected the death penalty, noting that Kim had confessed to most of his crimes and had no prior serious criminal record. The defendant also submitted a statement expressing deep regret for his actions, though the court noted there was no certainty about the sincerity of this remorse. This type of behavior is known as stalking. Stalking involves unwanted obsessive attention towards someone, leading to the victim fearing for their safety. A stalker may follow you, make incessant phone calls, and send endless messages on social media. Romantic messages often escalate into threats and physical harm, even leading to beatings and murder. In Korea, stalking was previously treated as a misdemeanor, punishable by a fine of up to 100,000 won, or up to 29 days in jail. The National Police Agency reported 5,000 stalking complaints in 2020 across Korea, with nearly 90% of these cases being resolved on the spot without further police action. Responding to public calls for harsher penalties, in March 2021, the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea passed a new law. Starting from October 21st, stalkers could face up to 3 years in prison, or a fine of up to 30 million won. In more severe cases, the penalties could increase to a maximum of 5 years in prison and a fine of up to 50 million won. Stalking is a global issue, often affecting celebrities. In 2017, British actress Keira Knightley encountered a peculiar stalker. Mark Revell, a 50-year-old man, was obsessed not only with the actress but also with cats. He sent Keira cat-themed postcards and once mailed a USB drive with a song titled Fuzzy Kitty Waltz, performed by him, accompanied by a note asking her to evaluate his work. Later, he trespassed onto her property and meowed through her mail slot. Keira's husband chased the man away, after which Revell tweeted, "If Whiten plays the devil, I must play the public punisher, right?" and posted a nude photo of Keira Knightley. Revell was arrested in 2016. He was diagnosed with schizophrenia and had a history of sending threatening letters to various people. Once, he even broke into the house of a nurse he knew, completely naked. He was sentenced to compulsory treatment, fined, and given 2 months in jail, along with a restraining order against approaching the actress. Another incident occurred in 2005 with American opera singer Leandra Ram. Colin Leung, a 36-year-old man, saw her performance on TV and contacted her, posing as an opera manager. Leandra initially communicated with him, believing his story. She stopped responding when he began acting strangely, but by then, the stalker had all her contact information. He started sending her photos of weapons and threatening notes. Despite her pleas, neither the FBI nor the police were willing to help. It was only after a long time that private detective Ray Faradella managed to secure a criminal case against the stalker. It was discovered that Leung had also sent threatening letters to 2 other musicians, pianist Ilona Krasny and Ukrainian violinist Veronika Sakno. He was sentenced to a $5,000 fine and 3 years in prison. After his release in 2019, he resumed his old behavior.